Just first person whipping game. This is Evan's dream right here.
I thought of it literally 10 seconds ago.
Yeah, which developer would you choose to make this game, Evan?
Who's good at first person melee combat? That's the thing.
Who would be able to get the crack of that whip perfect for
The
you?
melee combat in Dishonored isn't terrible.
Okay, so you'd get the Dishonored team to work on your first person whipping game.
Yeah, and like you can block with your whip or
What the fuck are we talking about?
well, I do have plans to expand into VR as well.
What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 15 of Podcast Reload. It's the general gaming podcast by Sifted.net subscribers, where we invite community guests onto the show to talk about the games industry in all its weird ways. I am your host, Vin Hill, and joining me, as always, is my co-host and fellow Japan dweller, Evan Piotrowski.
Hey, people.
Okay, and joining us as well is, of course, our community guest from Sifted.net. This week it is Shane, also known as the CuriousConjurer.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me on.
Oh, no worries, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, a bit of housekeeping. I don't actually think we've got many corrections or anything. I just want to say, I just want to apologise over the last couple of weeks. The editing hasn't been too great. I've just been really busy at work, and life is taken over at this point. But we'll be back on track now, and this week's episode should be nice and clean. But it's a bit weird because obviously we've had all the E3 stuff going on, and this the first week we're actually back to normal. Like normal guests, normal program sort of thing. So yeah, it'll be nice to finally get back to it.
Yeah, it's been like maybe about 5 weeks, over a month since we've just had a regular episode, which is nice actually to get back on track. So
yeah, there's a bit of structure to our lives as it were.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I don't think we've got any. Have we got anything else?
I do not think so.
Updates-wise?
No.
No. Okay, cool. So Shane, we've got a question for you, man.
Okay.
The question is, if you could have any developer make any game, remake, sequel, new IP, or whatever, who and what would it be?
All right, so I decided to go completely bonkers with this one.
Oh, please do.
Good.
That's how we like it.
I want a new Mega Man game.
Okay.
Okay.
I want a reboot of sorts. Give me a full 3D open world Mega Man game, because I think it can be done. We're going to ignore Mega Man X7. That was terrible. And
Right.
Given the fact that we'd be working with different powers and weapons and abilities in a big open world, I want Sucker Punch to do it.
Ooh, that's a good one.
This is going to get interesting.
Yes. I loved the different powers and abilities you got in Infamous Second Son. I thought most of them played really well, so I want to see that on a bit of a bigger scale in a game where you can go around and do missions and defeat the bosses and pick up the new abilities at your will.
Sure. Okay, so I have a question then. I'm guessing because in Second Son there wasn't really any puzzle platforming, correct?
No, just a big open world city for the most
Right.
part.
So because Mega Man, the 2D games have been a lot about the platforming and then also using those powers to find secret areas and stuff, would you put an element in there for not just a big city, but using powers and puzzle platforming, almost like not necessarily physics-based puzzles like in the Tomb Raider reboot games, but is that something that you would want?
I think there'd be room for that, because I think you could have a sort of hub world, so to speak, but then each robot master would have their own area.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think that's still how I'd want to do it. I think that'd be neat. So yeah, you could have, various, puzzle platforming elements I think it'd be one of those things where each sub area like that would have to have its own, things you could do in it, various submissions and whatever. So I'm sure puzzle platforming could be worked in there somehow.
Sure, and it kind of just reminds me of some of the 3D Zelda games where, like, after you get the hook shot and you go back into Hyrule Field, you'll notice sections where you can access that you weren't able to before.
Right.
So, like in the hub world, you could do that once you got a new power. That would be interesting. Have you played the Mega Man Legends game?
I never actually got to play those games, no.
Okay.
But did you play Mighty Number 9? That's the real question.
Oh, yes, we're going to get to that.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit.
All right.
Of course, yeah. Speaking of games that we've been playing recently, what have you been playing this week, Evan?
This is it's interesting that Shane said Sucker Punch because I just finished Infamous 2.
I love the fact that you're like 10 years behind. I
know.
It's so
like
good.
what game is Evan gonna dig out of the garbage this week?
I know, right? It's like you are dusting shit up and just like, yeah, I might play this one from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I love
Basically, anytime there's a PlayStation PSN sale, I'll just go through the garbage and just pick out like whatever deal, and it was cheap enough. I played Infamous years and years back, never got around to Infamous 2, so I picked it up, and the interesting thing is actually I played Ratchet and Clank Future games. I played Tools for Destruction and A Crack in Time. I platinum Crack in Time last week, and so I went from 2 Insomniac games into a Sucker Punch game. And do you remember before E3, it was rumored that Sucker Punch was making the Spider-Man game for Sony?
Right.
And then it turned out it was Insomniac, and I was a bit confused because just looking at Sucker Punch has been making superhero games for years, basically, right? These open world superhero games where you're using your powers for world traversal and doing side missions to help people and whatever. Right. But after playing the Ratchet and Clank games and then Infamous, I'm happy that it's Insomniac making this game and not Sucker Punch, because I have a lot of issues with Infamous 2 that I maybe didn't have with Infamous because it was one of the first PlayStation 3 games that I played, and I was just kind of excited to play a PlayStation 3 game. It just kind of wowed me in that sense.
I will go on to say that they did fix a lot of problems in Second Son. I think
yeah.
Majority of mechanics are pretty much ironed out. Like, I would say the bigger problem with Second Son is probably the story for me. But
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, mechanics-wise, it's pretty solid. Like, the story is just, you'd have to play it. It's a good game. It was worth the money at the time, but, like, yeah, it's...
Oh, I'll play it. I mean, I'm playing Infamous 2. I'm, like, one evil playthrough away from platinuming that game. I've been playing it for the last couple of days. Yeah, I've burned through most of it, but man, like the parkouring, if you could call it that in that game, like Assassin's Creed, it is not. You cannot just hold down the button and go. In order to climb, you just have to keep tapping the jump button. And this game came out in 2011, but I think Assassin's Creed 2 came out in like 2009, so I don't even know if there's an excuse. But it's just the way that they built the game. But just the way you magnetize this stuff gets really, really annoying. Like the whole. Oh, I have a question actually. Did they dump the whole binary choice thing in Second Son?
No, I'd say it's worse actually.
Are you serious? It is so dumb, and it's really apparent in this game because in the first game they give you a good choice and a bad choice, but they choose an ending for you when they make the sequel.
Yeah.
So what's the point? And they basically say by choosing an ending for you in Infamous and starting Infamous 2, Cole is a good guy. So it doesn't make sense for you to be a bad guy. Cole would not go around killing these people, and it just shows, but it also shows in the cutscenes that he's a very boring, hollow character because they can't make him swing one way or the other because depending on how you play the game. So it would have been better if there was some sort of grayscale where...
Yes.
you know, like battles break out in the middle of the city and you accidentally injure people or even kill citizens. And at the end of the missions, even in this game, like it shows you the good things and the bad things that you've done, but you're ultimately only awarded good points or bad points.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting if there's more of a grayscale and like kind of show the conflict of a hero that's trying to help people, but you know, in the moment he actually might hurt people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I kind of hope if.
But you must be enjoying it though, right? If you're like one off a platinum.
Yeah, and part of my issues with a lot of it might be because I played it on hard, so there's a lot of really, really annoying parts to that game just because it's difficult. But like the Ratchet and Clank games are infinitely better games. They're just more fun to play, and I like that they've actually had practiced with world traversal stuff with Sunset Overdrive, so I'm actually more excited now, having played the Ratchet games, to see them do Spider-Man. But yeah. Sorry, that went a bit long, but
it's all good. But yeah, Shane, you were talking about Mighty Number 9 a minute ago. Is that what you've been playing, or?
Yeah, it's one of the 2 games I've been playing. I backed Mighty Number 9 on Kickstarter, I don't know, 37 years ago or whenever it was that it. If I had to review it in one word, I would probably just yawn, and that's about it. So it's just disappointing. Not because it's not a Mega Man game. It's just not a good game. Whether or not you were expecting Mega Man or not, it's not good.
It's a shame.
Yeah,
it's a
really
big shame.
shame.
I've got a friend at our studio that I work with, and like he backed the game and he got like one of the t-shirts and stuff, and he was walking around the studio with the t-shirt on. Like the day that it came in, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get the code. Like it's at home, it's waiting for me and stuff. And like the next day, he wasn't wearing that t-shirt. Put it that way.
Maybe he filmed one of those like your favorite quarterback goes to another team, and then they like put that stupid video on YouTube where like they light the jersey on fire. He just like lights his t-shirt on fire, throws it in a dumpster.
He should have done that one.
I mean, I feel like the writing was on the wall. With this game, I had lost all interest in it really, a year ago, but I already paid for it. I was getting a code, so of course I'm going to play it. But
right. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I was watching the making of documentary or whatever, like the first episode, and just watching it, like as a developer myself, just looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's insane to me, like how they made that game. Like they had, like, Inafune lives in Osaka, and the team developing it is like in Tokyo.
Oh, really? I thought it was in Osaka.
Really?
I guess I must have missed that part.
And and he would like visit the team like every couple of months to check on builds and stuff like this. And like at his office and stuff where he was working in Osaka, like all the stuff, like all the concept art and stuff was done there. So he was just concentrating on how the game looked, not really how it played. And then, like, the whole game was made in, like, spreadsheets, pretty much, like, design-wise.
Oh, I did see that, yeah.
Such an archaic way of working. It's like, if you, like, in today's day and age, you should be making a game, in Unity anyway, you should just be making, like, a grey box game with the character moving around in it from day one to start testing out levels and finding new mechanics and stuff like that. Like, because as you're playing the game that you're making, you're sort of like, oh, okay, we can change this, we can do that. He wasn't doing that. He was designing the game in spreadsheets. It was just such an old way of thinking, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, like as the director of Mega Man, but it just didn't work out. It was such an old way of thinking for like today's day and age, making a video game. It's crazy to me.
Have you guys gone back and looked at the original concept art for that game?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've
Mighty Number 9.
Yeah,
I've gotten backer updates, for a couple of years now, or whenever it was, So there was definitely a point in which the art style changed, and it. I mean, I didn't think the original was when they had like the original gameplay footage up. I didn't think that was great, but it was still somehow better than what we ended up getting. So to hear you say that he was visiting or he was working mostly on art, that's like, really? Because the gameplay is, I mean, it has potential at least, but the art is just terrible.
Yeah, he basically hired a company to make the game for him, and he was just like overseeing it from time to time. It wasn't even like he wasn't on it full time, sort of thing. Like he's working on other things like Red Ash and like his movie project or whatever, Like he's just got like this massive vision of what like his empire is going to be. And it sort of just fell right through the fucking floor on him, sort of thing, It's weird.
There's a photo there for you then, just to give you.
Yeah.
It's
It's just
quite
the
a
art
different
style
game.
is just completely different from the concept, right? I
Well,
mean, it looked 2D. It looked like this stylistic 2D game, but now it's like this weird sort of dated 3D.
Yeah.
I think the game looks bad. Like I've heard actually
looks
it
terrible.
controls fairly well. Is that true, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, controls are fine, really. I mean, I have some issues with the level design, but as far as controlling the main character, I mean, the game plays okay.
Right.
But-
It just, man, it looks drab. The world, it just looks like a bunch of industrial piping, like very uninspired.
Yeah.
Just
And
from what
that's,
I've seen.
There's areas where, like, there's literally no background. There's just a solid color for a
Wow.
background.
Jesus.
I'm like, it is 2016. Really?
I just,
Honestly, when I looked at it, I was like, man, it looks like a PlayStation 2 Sonic game. You know?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of what it looks like. It's weird.
I remember, I think I watched when reviews are coming out, I watched like the first 20 minutes of it, and there's just constant talking. And I was like, they actually went through and spent a lot of time and money on voice acting. Like, that was a huge mistake, because not only is it's meaningless and it's boring, and no one cares about the story or the voice acting in a game like that.
People just want to play it. They just want to play a Mega Man game. That's
And
all
it just
they
kept
want.
going on, and they just kept talking. I was like, oh my god, let the person play the game. If that's the first 15 minutes,
Yeah.
I don't know.
They may have spent a lot of time on the voice acting, but they didn't spend a lot of money. I guarantee you that.
Okay, there you go.
Right. Fair enough. So
right.
that's a negative review from Shane for
Yeah.
Mighty Number 9, right?
All right, Vin, how about yourself? What have you been playing?
I haven't been playing much, to be honest, because I've been getting slapped at work. We are
Is that a VR game you're
about to
playing?
hit. Yeah, well, you know. Don't even... Whip VR coming soon.
Yes.
Right, but
No, we're getting busy at work, so I haven't really been able to play that many games. I just started Diablo 3 last night. Like, I had about an hour in that. I've been wanting to play it for a while. It was on sale a couple of weeks ago, and I grabbed it. So I
you've
just beat it up.
never played it before.
I've never played Diablo 3 before, no. Huge fan of Diablo 1 and 2. Many, 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 many moons ago. Love them when they first came out. Played them on PC. But I actually bought this one on the PS4 because I remember the Game Trailers review gave it really high praise for being a good console attempt of the game.
I do remember
Because that was one thing that I was worried about. Like, I was worried that I was going to pick it up on console and just be like, oh, man, I need a mouse, sort of thing. And I'm sure there's PC gamers out there right now rolling their eyes like, you should use a mouse and stuff, but it actually feels really good on console. They utilize the buttons well, you know. Instead of having like a load of bars set up on numbers, it's set up on a different button. You know, that sounds really ridiculous the way I just explained that, but yeah, instead of having like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's spread out quite well across the controller, so it actually works really well. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I mean, I've only put an hour into it. It feels very much like Diablo. It's nice to hear like the old Diablo sound effects kick in whenever you pick up a book, or like the old Tristram music and stuff. It's nice. I mean, it feels good to be back in the world of Diablo at this point. But
that is cool. It's pretty impressive, like how the brain works with little things like that, where you're not even thinking about it, but when you hear that sound effect, you remember it. Like, I'll always remember the sound effects for Silent Hill games. When you go into your menu screen or you look at items, it's very distinct.
It is nice when they bring that stuff back, because it is something really small, like a sound effect, but that's what makes that world, you know, sometimes. Like,
Sure.
When you open a book in Diablo, it's a very specific sound that it makes, like when you use a potion, it's this very specific sound. And it's such a small thing, but when they put that in Diablo 3, it just feels like Diablo at that point because of that just one sound effect, you know. It just makes it. So, yeah, it's definitely good to be back in the world of Diablo. So I'll have to give you my second hour of play probably next week, because this month's going to be pretty wild. So, yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
Sounds good.
Yeah, moving on. We should move on into our main section of the podcast, which is, of course, the Small Three. And in the Small Three, we each pick a topic that we want to talk about. This can be industry related. It can be a game that we're excited about, a game that we really hate. It can be non-topical. It can be absolutely anything that we want to be. In traditional sense, we're going to start off with our community guest, which is Shane this week. Shane, what is your topic for the small three this week?
So I want to talk about games that really moved you. And yeah. So what prompted this was strangely like one of the shortest trailers at E3 was the Last Guardian release date trailer, because that's basically what it was. When that date popped up there, it hit me like, wow, we're finally getting this game. And it just...
You have no idea how excited I am. You have no idea.
I mean, it brought up all these different emotions, and I think it's just because Eco and Shadow both are games that, like, really, really left a lasting impression on me. And, you know, like, there's times in games that you laugh, there's games that scare you, you know, but I feel like there's a really short list of games for me that, like, really, like, just fundamentally, like, changed me in a way. That sounds so corny, but I mean...
No, hey, say no more. I mean, obviously, say more, because you got to talk about your topic, but you're talking...
That's the end of the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
No, you mentioned Eco and Shadow. It's like you're preaching to the choir with both of us.
You really are. Like, my favorite game of all time is Eco. Like, Evan's is Shadow of the Colossus. So, yeah, you are literally preaching to the choir.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is it about those games, you know, that did it for you guys?
For me, I think it's when you get a game that just completely destroys that third wall of you're playing a video game and you just get sucked into it, sort of thing. With Eco specifically, when I was playing that for the first time, it was something so different, and just the story, like it's really hard to explain, like, what actually moved me about Eco, but it was just the fact that it completely removed the fact that I was not playing a video game anymore. I wasn't watching a movie or anything. It was just a completely different experience, and I was completely just in that world with that character, exploring that castle, and just something that simple where just like the sound of the wind was blowing by and stuff. It's really difficult to explain, but it just changed the way I looked at video games, a lot of it as well. And, you know, it was no longer just this platformer game in a castle or whatever. It just completely opened it up for me, and it made me want to become a games developer. That game did, pretty much. So
yeah.
Nice.
And I think Vin, I think you have even mentioned this in your top 10, and when I read what you wrote, I was like, I got it immediately, because I remember one of the most memorable parts in that game is when you figure out the windmill puzzle. Right. When you take a leap of faith and you jump off and you grab the windmill so it can brings you up. Like, that's not even a story part. That's just...
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't explain it. I mean, when you look at Eco, like, as a story, it has no story, really. I mean, it does have a story. It has, like, some lore and stuff like that you can figure it out. But the characters themselves are quite empty to the point where you can just insert yourself into them. Like, Eco, like, as a character, like, the boy, like, he doesn't really... Like, you don't know what he likes, you don't know what he dislikes, you don't know what he's scared of, you don't know what his... You don't know any of this stuff about him, but you're attached to him because you can insert yourself into that position really easily, sort of thing, you know?
Yeah. I remember, I played the PS3 ports of Eco, well, of both of them recently, but when I was playing Eco, there was English subtitles for Eco. I don't remember that when I played it on PS2.
I thought if you beat the game and you played it again...
No, if you... Eco's voice is actually Japanese backwards, and it sounds like French almost, and that's what happens when you flip Japanese backwards.
Interesting.
Okay.
But they have English subtitles for all of Eco's dialogue, but when Yordo was speaking on the PS2 version, it had like the weird sort of text. Right. But then once you complete the game once, then it would translate all of Yorda's text as well.
Oh, really? See, I never knew that. See, all I remember from Eco is like going in and... I must not have had subtitles turned on or something, because I just remember like, okay, here's these two characters. I don't understand either one of them, and they don't understand each other, and yet I was still like really drawn into their adventure together. I mean, maybe that's what did it. You know, just...
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of how they did it with Brothers. I don't know if you played that game as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the language
talk about a
isn't
game
English
that
there
moves
either.
you, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just... like you don't know what they're saying, but you get it. You know what's happening.
Yeah.
And that was really important. And the exact same thing happened with me when I was playing a Journey. The first time you run into another player, like you can't communicate with them outside of your little ding ding, like your little noise that you can make. But that's it. But the way that you interact with the other person, you kind of know what you want to do with each other. You know, you're like, yeah, if you're going off in a certain direction, you can, like, the way just you interact with them, you just get it. Like, you understand what you're trying to do. And there's no dialogue, there's no voice, and it's not needed. And that was one of the great things about Eco as well.
Right.
Where you automatically understood that it was just about these two characters trying to help each other to get out of this castle.
And,
you know, and ultimately they make this connection to the point that's not the most important thing anymore. And that was the biggest takeaway for me, and that's what really moved me about that game more than anything, I think.
And I think with all of these games, Shadow, Eco, Journey, and Brothers are great examples of games that have so much faith in everything surrounding the game, like because there's not, the lack of story elevates everything else, but they had to work really hard to earn that. So the environments are part of that story, and they tell a story through the atmosphere, or just the journey in Shadow of the Colossus from, you know, Colossus to Colossus, where that journey from one point to the other, and, you know, raising your sword in the air and looking to see where it goes, and running into a wall and realizing you can climb this thing to get over it, and then your horse follows you around the other side, and that becomes part of the story. And they put so much work into making those parts stand out so much that you're able to fill the gaps where there isn't story with how you can put your own emotions and feeling into that, and that does become part of the story. But just the fact that there is no story means they have to elevate every other part of that game, and it works. Like, all of those games are great examples where, like, you don't need exposition, verbal, verbal. You can rely on the visuals and the feeling of gameplay and all of these things to make a lasting impression, more so than games that drone on and on about character development and this and that. So
but sometimes on the flip side of that, though, I mean, we obviously have games like The Last of Us, which do have all that. You know, they have exposition, they have character development, all that sort of stuff, and they move you in completely different, I'd say a completely different way, but like just as effectively. You know,
I agree.
Oh yeah.
I think, Shane, when you brought up this topic, when I first saw it, I mean, The Last of Us is one of the first games that immediately came to mind.
Right way,
What can you say about the opening of that game? Like, if that doesn't move you, then you might not be
you're
human.
a soulless bastard, basically. Yeah.
I mean, I was shocked by that opening.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, I cannot believe that I just watched this happen in a video game. You know, it's...
Yeah, I mean, normally my fiance, like, when because I play a lot of video games and she'll watch them, like, for the stories, but at the same time she'll always be doing something else, like she'll be knitting or she'll be reading or she'll be doing something else, like, and just looking over the top of whatever she's doing to, like, watch the cutscenes or whatever.
Right.
But when I played The Last of Us, like, that opening kicked in, she was reading or something, and she watched that opening cutscene. Like, after it cuts and The Last of Us, like, text comes up, you know, like the title, she literally put her book down and she just watched the whole game. Like, she didn't do anything else. And it was like that sort of like moving moment really defined what that game was, like, from that point on, and just it completely changed. Like, it's the perfect, like, ambassador game, you know? Like, whenever someone says, I don't really play video games, like, what's a good video game? Like, the first thing I always say is Last of Us, straight away. Like, it's the best ambassador game I can think of.
Well, because I think there's an easy, like, most people watch movies and they're interested in movies and storytelling and film to some extent.
Right.
It's an easier transition into games because that opening section, like, just the story beats and the dialogue and just the execution with what happens in that trailer, like when you go into the bedroom and the TV's on and you see the explosion and then you see it on the news, and you go downstairs and then your brother comes over and you pass by the hospital, like all those, and then you see the farmhouse on fire, like all those little story beats were so well executed. Like, it is almost like you're watching a movie. Yeah. So Vin, I totally agree. We're like, you have Journey and all these other games on one side, but if you are a good storyteller, and that works visually as well, all those sections, like they didn't even necessarily need dialogue, but it was just it was executed so beautifully that last part of that opening, it was just, you had 10 minutes to get to know those characters, but it was so impactful.
Yeah.
But all the games that we're talking about, I mean, I don't necessarily remember, like, even though Eco, for example, Eco is known, it should be known for its platforming and all of its, its level design, the art design of the castle and all this sort of stuff. But I don't remember any of that. I do remember it, but I don't recall that when, I'm thinking about the game. And like The Last of Us, I don't think about the mechanics of The Last of Us. I never do. I never think about like the shooting. I never think about the excellent puzzle design, which is actually in that game. I automatically just think about the story and how it affected me, and that's what I sort of take away from them games, like, which is most important. So the fact that they've achieved that is huge, it's massive.
Yeah.
But like for you, Shane, like what one game would you say has really moved you more than anything else?
Other than Eco and Shadow, obviously.
You can gush about those games if you want. We'll just sit here and listen. I'll
be happy to listen.
I'll put my elbows on the table and like tuck my fists under my chin and just
tilt your head, smile.
I mean, I just played Shadow again last week, and I was like, oh my gosh, this game is just so many emotions when you're going to each Colossus and everything. But the one game I always go back to actually goes in a completely different direction, and it's Persona 4 Golden, which very exposition heavy and very much about character development. And when I first started playing that game, it was really intimidating, but then you get further into it and you start developing these relationships with these characters, and I found all the characters to just be so like real, so human.
Yeah, yes, it's so human. I think that's definitely like the most important word there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think I mean we're so used now, we're so enamored to play games where we play the hero a lot, or we play we have a lot of tropes within the video games industry where it's like the Kratos character, or like the overly strong character that can take on anything that he wants. But then when we get these other little games, like, you're playing Eco or you're playing Shadow or whatever, you're playing these games where it's just completely human characters. And I think that's what helps with these quote unquote like moving games,
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you an opportunity to actually really connect with the characters. I mean, by the end of Persona 4 Golden, not to spoil anything, I mean, the game sets it up that, you're only going to be there for a year, so like at the end of the game, it's time for your character to leave, and like all the characters you've, hung out with are like running with you. It's like, bye, don't forget us, and like during that time, I'm like, I don't want him to leave either.
Yeah.
I don't want this experience to end.
I actually, Shane, I think I beat Persona 4 about maybe a year and a half ago. So that's still in my mind as well, and
I still need to finish it.
It's a great game, and no, Shane, it really does go to show you, because that's probably the first JRPG I've ever played for over 100 hours. And yes, I think a lot of those dungeons are they're very basic and they're very samey, but it's those character interactions between the fighting that keep you going through that story, and you see these characters like grow and evolve and you're a new kid, you don't know any of these people, and by the end you're all best friends, and it's believable.
Yeah.
And it's like
I think it's believable because like every one of the characters, I felt like I could relate to them in some way.
And they're all different. Right. They're all different in their own way.
Yeah, they're all totally different. But they all had something going on that was like, no, I mean, I get that. I can relate to that. I understand it. And just watching them grow, as you develop all their social links, it's just, I don't know. It was just so easy to connect to them. And
it's just, I think it also comes down to good writing and good translating, because there's been so many people, like a bit of Life is Strange. Some of the writing, like how does an 18-year-old talk? It's very cringe. It's cringeworthy, some of it.
Yeah.
But I think Persona 4 did a very good job of this is how a 15-year-old or 14-year-old kid would. It just sounds believable, and
Right.
the writing was good enough, and the voice acting, by the way, all the characters did a
very
great
good.
job. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it just like this whole conversation just makes me more like excited to get hold of The Last Guardian finally, because
Yes.
I don't think the last game which I played which actually moved me was probably The Last of Us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really, I'm excited to jump back into that sort of experience and play through another game that's like gonna hopefully have me in tears or some shit, like crying like a baby on the floor. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be great, but it'd be. But I think there's always room for these type of games. Like we talk about this, but I wouldn't want every single game like this. I wouldn't want a Call of Duty that moves me. But
Right.
there's always room for these smaller experience. Well, not smaller, but they're a lot more subtle, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, great topic, man. It was interesting to hear you guys talk about it. But yeah, moving on, we're actually going to talk about Evan's topic now. Do you want to introduce what you want to talk about in this week's Small 3, dude?
Yeah, speaking of storytelling, I'm going to go on to the other aspect of this. My topic is good story premise, bad execution. And this is actually a topic I thought of maybe about a month ago. So, while we did talk about The Last of Us and Persona 4 and some of these games that had great execution and how they moved you, whether that be through visuals or atmosphere or dialogue, a lot of storytelling in games has never been on the level of film.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't good game stories. And I think it's just difficult with games because of the interactive nature. The storytelling in games is essentially different because it requires more than just dialogue and like a good cinematographer to tell a story.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult thing, but sometimes it really pains me to see a good story premise for a video game be ruined by the execution. And the game that made me think about this topic which is I don't know. I played it a month ago. A Crysis 2. Now you're thinking, well, what? Crysis 2? That's like saying you're disappointed by the story in a Call of Duty game. And it's kind of true, but the whole idea of this company that made this ridiculously powerful suit that can like absorb cells and adapt and grow almost like a being, like an actual living thing. Guy puts on the suit and there's an alien invasion and he gets caught up in this story of like he's pretty much one of the only people that can save it. Now, looking back on that kind of just sounds like the God complex thing, like Shepard in Mass Effect or whatever.
Right.
But I thought and then the aliens are attacking New York. I like the idea of the story, but the general idea of the story, but it just was just the story just kind of came down to profit. It was just like military speak the whole time. Like, we need to access the subway, go from A to B, and then you go to B. It's like, well, we need the conduit, so why don't you reload your 1-2s and 10-4 out of the subway, and then you go here. It's just you like that, and it never went anywhere interesting. And it was just at the end of the game, it's like I don't care about any of these people. Yeah. It was just so boring, and the story was so bad that I was able to like pull back and just see the basic structure of the game. It's like all you're doing is going from A to B, and then from B to C, then C to B, and you're just shooting. Now, in a game like Crysis, actually, it's forgivable because that game is about like the gunplay. Right. But it just started making me think about other games where the premise was good, and I have a couple other examples. It's not Crysis. Crysis actually is kind of a bad choice because, yeah, from what I just said.
It's still valid, though.
Yeah, I was just a bit disappointed. Like, they could have told a better story there. But yeah, so I wanted to ask you guys, what games do you think had a general good story premise but was just executed badly? I guess I'll start with Shane. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, and this is probably going to be super controversial, but it's relevant. I have never been impressed by the God of War games.
Okay.
Like, at all. I played all the way through the first one, and that was just one of those things where I started it, so I'm going to finish it. And
Yep.
I think I got halfway through the second one, and I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I mean, I love mythology. I love, Greek mythology, and it seemed like such a cool premise.
Well, it should be for you then, right? You'd think so.
Yeah, but I didn't like Kratos. Kratos is a terrible character,
Yeah.
and just for me, the games just became about, instead of exploring all this, rich mythology, let's just go kill everything. We'll just go slaughter everything and not have a personality while we're doing it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. But that's exactly why the new
Yeah,
God of
it's
War,
interesting though. I mean, going off like the last conversation which we had about moving storytelling and stuff within video games, just how God of War is looking now, like the new God of War, which has just been announced for the PS4, and just completely U-turn, you know,
and
it's gone
that
from
looks
this.
good.
Yeah, and it looked great, and just the whole aspect of him with this boy and just the interaction, there was more storytelling in that one trailer than there was in the whole of all of the other God of War games combined.
Yeah,
Right.
You know?
I could see that. I never even played 3. That's how I just couldn't even care.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that they've gone from that and they've sort of listened to that and said, okay, we need more meaningful storytelling within the game. That's
Yeah.
it's just an interesting perspective, on the whole thing. But
Yeah, it feels
U-turn.
like they're actually trying to tell a story instead of just, oh well, hey, this exists in Greek mythology, so we got to make sure we hit that, and then move on to this next thing
Right.
that exists in Greek mythology, and
Yeah. It's
it's like a checklist, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
An
That's
actual
what
story.
it felt like.
there was a ton of stuff there that they just never explored, and they focused on this Kratos guy whose only emotion at the time in those 3 games was just anger and kill everything. Yeah, they could have done a better job with that, I think. I did like the gameplay of the God of War games, but in terms of story, they could have explored the mythology a bit deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the gameplay was great.
But all right, that's a good one. Vin, how about you? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think mine's probably going to be a bit controversial as well. But it's all these popular games, right? But the Metal Gear Solid series is probably mine.
Sure.
Which-
Definitely controversial, I'd say. Some people are probably
Yeah, I mean,
ready
there's
to...
obviously huge fans of Metal Gear Solid and stuff, but for me personally, just the idea, the whole, if you look at the timeline of the game itself, a lot of it has some really good beats, has good story beats, the whole fact about Metal Gear, the actual concept of the mech and stuff, that's cool. The characters are cool. Everything in the story is quite interesting and exciting.
Oh, yeah,
It
the
works within
story
gameplay of the
beats and the general premise of the whole Metal Gear everything. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I agree.
Yeah, it's cool, and it is fun, when you're playing the game. But recently, I was trying to play Metal Gear Solid 2 on the remaster collection on the PS3, and it is just horrible. It is one of the worst written stories I've ever seen in a video game in all my life. When I was younger and I played that game, and I think a lot of people that have played Metal Gear Solid and enjoyed the series as a whole, they probably remember Metal Gear Solid 2 fondly and sort of nostalgia and retrospect, but
Sure.
if you go and tell them to go and play it right now, they would have a completely different feeling about it, because the whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous, and just the way it was written and how they explain certain things is just so convoluted and messy that it could have been great. It could have had this really fluid sort of way of looking through it, but the whole thing just sort of felt messy and dicey. I mean, at the time, where games were in storytelling, it wasn't too much of an issue, because back on PlayStation 1, PS2 era, I think video games are still trying to find their feet on how to tell stories.
Oh, of course,
That's
yeah.
probably why. It's probably why Shane's probably picked God of War as well. Similar thing. It was just, okay, how can we make this thing cool? That was basically the bullet point on the games design document, right? We need to make this cool. How can we make this cool?
The cinematic presentation of Metal Gear Solid was very novel at the time. It was new. You're playing
especially
and
Metal
you're
Gear Solid 1.
seeing the credits roll as you're playing the game. It was something that I had never experienced before. But yeah, going back to...
Yeah.
I just think, and this is a problem with a lot of Japanese games, and some parts of Japanese storytelling, especially
I already know what you're gonna say.
in manga,
but go on, I'll let you say.
is the exposition dumps in Metal Gear Solid are egregious. They are so bad, and it's very, very prevalent in Japanese storytelling. And people even make fun of it. This is way back in the day with Dragon Ball Z, where two people have a conversation, and one guy just start giving this exposition dump. Oh, you're Piccolo who killed my father, but also is level 1000, and I've trained for 3 years to fight you. It's like, it's terrible. It's terrible storytelling. It's a terrible way to deliver story, but it still happens in Japanese manga like all the time. It's just it's more common.
Yeah,
I think especially in then expedition dumps as well, they'll dump them just to add depth to the game, or they think they're adding depth, but they're not.
No,
they're not
it's
adding
bad
any
storytelling.
depth to the story. Yeah, there's a huge difference between making something more complicated for the sake of making it complicated and making it deep, you know? So it happens a lot in Japanese video games, and Metal Gear Solid is not safe from it as well, I should say. Like, sometimes I'm just like, who? Like, why? Okay, and then they'll reference something from, like, the first game, like, which I'd totally forgotten about. I'm just like, who? But, all right, yeah, okay. And just, like, you've got to keep, like, this mental timeline in your head. There's no proper way to explain the story of Metal Gear Solid without someone looking at you like you've just walked in on Christmas Day and pissed on the kids. You know, there's just it's impossible. It's really hard.
well,
so,
and I have to wonder, you know, when a game does info dump, whether they try to do it subtly or not. I mean, do you ever actually even remember any of that stuff? Because I don't.
No, I don't. Like, I remember, the cool, like, story beats, you know, like the big moments, like, that are actually happening within the game. I can never ever remember anything. Like, if Ocelot says something to Snake in the middle of, like, this cutscene, it's like, oh, do you remember when this happened and we did this? Like, ha ha ha, yeah, and all this sort of stuff. I'm just like, what? Like, all right, whatever. Like, yeah, let's just go and kill this dude. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah,
and so it becomes totally pointless then. Like, you don't remember it anyway. So why did they even need to put it in there?
Exactly.
No, I think Kojima from the get-go, like, he's a big idea man. He comes up with some crazy ideas that sound amazing, but he really needs someone there to edit what he's doing and tell him when he needs to pull back, or like, this is way too long. You need to cut this dialogue down, or this scene is going on way too long. Like, stop overindulging. He doesn't have that, and it's been prevalent throughout all of those Metal Gear games, and especially in Metal Gear Solid 4.
The games are great. I mean, the games are really great. I mean, I enjoy them. I played them all. I've loved them all. But in retrospect, if I went to... Like, I can't play Metal Gear Solid 2 anymore because it's such a mess, like, in terms of storytelling. Metal Gear Solid 1 is still playable because it's relatively simple, quote-unquote, for, like, a Kojima game, you know? It's quite straightforward. Like, you're doing A, B, and C, and, like, there's the twist at the end, and, like, okay, that's cool. That's a good, well-structured story. It's like, where the hell was that writer in Metal Gear Solid 2? Because it just wasn't there, you know?
Yeah.
And Metal Gear Solid 3 is kind of back on track, and then Metal Gear Solid 4 goes off the rails again. It's just like, what? Like, I can't remember anything that happened in Metal Gear Solid 4. Really? Not really. I can't remember. Like, I can remember, like, the big story beats.
But
between,
Shane's
I've
right.
no idea.
Just, it's like exposition overload, and more things, you forget more things than you remember. So then it just goes back to what was the point of, like, doing way too much. I would say one last example is I actually like the general premise of Final Fantasy 13. Which I'm sure nobody remembers.
Close the Skype call and get off my podcast.
Oh no! Okay, hold on. But let's think about it. So there are these things called.
We'll have to explain this one.
There are these things called the Felsi, these omnipotent, like, godlike beings that only have one goal, which is to, like, help mankind.
Yeah.
In like, whether it's like they can, like, make food, or they're an endless source of power for electricity and stuff like that, keeping cocoon in the air. Like, they can actually not go against their own nature. They were made in order to fulfill these things. And so actually they get so fed up with the idea of why they were put on this earth in the first place that they get this plan to force humans to destroy Cocoon, because what that's going to do is kill so many people in a single instance that it's going to call the maker back from where the maker came, to answer to kind of find out what's going on with the world that it created, so that they can ask the maker like why they were made in the first place, because they can't do it themselves, because actually killing people in Cocoon would go against their very nature of preserving it. And so they use these they use the characters in the game as slaves in order to do that. So like I like that idea of these creatures that are like asking like why are we here? Why are we made? And but like do you remember any of that in the game?
Nope.
None of that was apparent.
Like I have no idea. You just explained something to me. I was like, yeah, I played most of that game and I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, you actually kind of lost me part of the way through the description. So
basically, the Felsi forced the humans to try to destroy Cocoon so that basically God can come back from where he came and say like, hey, what's up? And then they can ask him, why the hell did you make us? That's basically it.
I mean, that sounds interesting.
In general. But the execution
but with 13,
is terrible.
Like the characters that try and explain that story, or the actual gameplay of that game, just completely ruined any of that. You know, it completely dashed any of that to give it a chance to even succeed.
And hey, I didn't get that from the game. I had to look that shit up, like Wikipedia articles and all that stuff.
That's what I was getting ready to say though. Like if you give me a story premise and then or a keyword or something, then I immediately have to be like, what? And then go into some long text and try to figure out what it was saying. That's a problem.
Right.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
I'm okay with, those long texts for anyone who wants the extra story or whatever. But like, I just remember like playing it and being like, wait, what? Falsi, Lassie, what?
Yeah. Like I can't even, Oh, it's so difficult. Like, especially when Cloud 2.0 / Lightning is trying to explain all this shit. I'm just like, well, yeah, whatever. I don't even care, man.
Yeah. It's it just sucks. Like, the idea is there. You could make a good game out of that very, very strange premise, but completely lost in the execution of that game. Like, actually, like,
no, it's a good one.
If you were going to do some presentation on just like terrible storytelling, like I would say Final Fantasy 13 is like, it's like the first game that I would show people and just point to it and like, don't do that. Don't do any of that.
Such a bad game.
Yeah.
Story wise, gameplay wise, just the only thing that it has going for it is that it looks pretty. That's it.
Well, it does look pretty. I guess it could look prettier. Hopefully they don't remaster it though. That trilogy.
No, just let it sail into the west and just let it die peacefully. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Jesus.
You never know.
Anyway, we should move on to the last topic of the podcast, which is my topic. And I actually wanted to talk about remasters real quick. Pretty simple. Are remasters a good or a bad thing? There's been a lot of debate about this over the last few years, I would say, because obviously remasters have been used in multiple different ways by publishers to see if consumers are still gauging interest in certain IP, or if they're, it sort of solves the problem of backwards compatibility. But like, I want to get your guys' take on it, because some people look at them as like, oh, they're just like shills for making money, but are they also a good thing, like to give the fans more of what they already love? So I'll sort of kick this off with you, Evan. Like, how do you view remasters? Are they a good or a bad thing?
Well, if you wanted to look at it cynically, you'd say, yeah, they're just companies just trying to make more money off remastering an old game and doing it quickly and cheaply. But I would say that, especially when a series that was available on one console is now available in its entirety on another console for people that didn't have a chance to play it before, and they have the opportunity to, it's a great thing. My main example would be the Witcher series, which I would really hope at some point does get remastered and the trilogy is brought to the PS4 so that I can play The Witcher 1 and The Witcher 2, because never had the opportunity, never owned a Xbox and a PC that would be capable of playing The Witcher, so it's a
good point. I mean, I do the same thing with Shenmue as well. Like, I still haven't played them games.
Right.
Like, Chimney 1 is on Dreamcast, and then Chimney 2 is on the Xbox. I think it might have been on Dreamcast as well. But then Chimney 3 is coming on to the PC and PS4 and Xbox One. I'm just like, there's no like coherence, you know?
Right.
So that is a game that is primed for a remaster.
Yeah, and it's a quick and easy way to get acquainted with some games that you hadn't. Maybe you got a PlayStation 3 late in the cycle and you didn't want to, hunt down the trilogy, and then all of a sudden you have a PS4 and you get every game on one disc. Like my brother, and also, yeah, like I said before, my brother, I think he had a 360. He's never played any of the Uncharted games, and guess what? There's a collection on the PS4 that he can now get acquainted with this series in one disc. So
Uncharted is actually like Uncharted is actually like the perfect example of this, because I remember hearing how like a massive portion of PS4 owners actually came over from Xbox 360. So and maybe never even had the PS3, so they would have never gotten to play those games, and that's so remastering it for the PS4 I think was, I would even say essential. Play those games. So it's great that it gives people a chance to.
Yeah, I had a friend that was 360 only last generation as well, and when he came over, he got to play Uncharted 1 to 3. Obviously, got to play Uncharted 4 as well because it was the next one in the series. He played Heavy Rain as well, and then he played The Last of Us. Like, he'd never played these games.
I keep telling
I was like,
by the way, I keep telling my
jealous.
brother, I say, Nick, pick up The Last of Us Remastered. You need to play the game. He's like, yeah, I'll get around to it. I'm like, oh, please, just...
Dude. Yeah, like, after he plays that game, he's going to call you up and be like, I should have fucking listened to you. Yeah, you should have.
Waiting for that phone call.
I keep forgetting that game got remastered. Like
it's one of them games where a lot of people think that it just came out on the PS4 a lot of the time as well. So, same thing with Grand Theft Auto 5. Like, a lot of people forget that they came out on the PS3, and that's where I played it. I still haven't played the PS4 version, but everyone thinks that it's just naturally a PS4 game now.
Right.
It's sort of just shifted into their subconscious.
Yeah, I'm all for remasters, whether it be games that I didn't get to play or just games that I'd like to play again. And like, one of the big examples I always use is I really wish Capcom would remaster the Onimusha series. I loved those games, and I haven't played them for years now. I don't think I ever even played the third one. So I'm like, I want to play those again. I mean,
that would be cool. I mean, they remastered the Resident Evil, right? They did the GameCube remake, and then they did a remaster of that, and it could totally work.
That actually is a remaster of a remake.
Right.
I've only just thought of that.
I mean, I could see Onimusha totally working. Just update the tank controls like they did in the remake remaster, and you'd be set. Remaster make.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's some companies which I feel that need to do it, as well, especially if they're releasing games that are coming out later in that series, like Mass Effect right now. Like, everyone's getting hyped for Mass Effect Andromeda, but I'm one of these people that haven't played Mass Effect. It's one of them games which I missed. And I would love a remaster on the PS4 right now. I really would, because the only access that I've got to that game right now is I've got the trilogy on the PS3, but the PS3 version of Mass Effect trilogy is so poorly optimized.
It's not ideal.
It's pretty much unplayable. It runs at like 15 to 25 FPS. It's just a broken mess basically.
Yeah, I
don't want to experience that game that way.
I beat that. I played Mass Effect 1 for the PS3. I beat it this January for the first time.
Yeah.
I do not recommend it.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Everyone tells me that as well. But yeah, I mean, why EA are so stubborn about that stuff, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, they are stubborn about remastering stuff. But like, you would think a game like Mass Effect, they could remaster that thing and repackage it till the end of time. You'd think EA would do that if there was a publisher to toss that game out there.
I know they say that they don't want to do that, but I have a hard time believing it hasn't at least been batted around, especially with Andromeda dropping. I mean, that's next year? Is that coming out?
Yeah.
I mean,
it could be any time at this point.
Well, yeah.
And there's plenty of Mass Effect 3 DLC out there as well that they could toss in there.
Exactly. I mean, like Dead Space as well. Dead Space is another one.
Oh,
Why
I would
hasn't
love
Dead
that.
Space remaster come out? like a Dead Space trilogy remaster on the PS4. Man,
see-
I would eat that up instantly.
Yeah, and see, that's like an example. I would play those because I never played those games at all.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I mean, that's another one I'd like to play. So if they did it, I'd pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the good thing about remasters, though, right? I mean, the fact that if you miss a game and then it comes out for the current generation, it's all packaged nicely and it's all just together in one block and it gets all the DLC with it. That's one of the great things about remasters.
Yeah,
Now,
and go ahead, Shane.
as a counter argument to this, Crash Bandicoot is being remastered, and all I can think is why?
Oh, Vin.
Why?
I've got a theory. I've got a theory about this because, like, before E3, I was completely saying they're not going to show Crash. Just leave it, let it die. Just because Sean Layden came out on stage like 2 years ago with a Crash T-shirt on,
Yeah.
it's slowly getting more and more hyped up. It's like, just let it go. Crash is so bad. It was amazing at the time, but that game did not age well.
No, it did
Like
not.
recently, I played Uncharted 4, and you play a section of one of the first levels
Yeah.
of Crash Bandicoot within Uncharted 4, and it's sort of like a bookend to Naughty Dog as a developer. You know, like this is Uncharted 4, like the latest graphics, the latest gameplay you can think of, to their first thing, pretty much that set them on the map.
Right.
And you can just looking at the difference is astronomical.
Yeah.
And that game does not age well at all.
And in the context of Uncharted 4, that was great. And honestly, if they like remastered Crash and got Nolan North and Emily Rose to basically have that conversational banter back and forth the entire game, then I would play it.
Yeah,
Because that was hilarious. But
that was pretty funny.
and that made
But yeah, I
that
think
made it
honestly
tolerable.
that is what they're doing though. They are the reason why they put out the remaster is to test the waters. You know,
What,
it's
for
basically
Crash
like
4?
a massive survey. Yeah,
Or like a
exactly.
Crash reboot?
It's a survey. That's what this game is. Like they'll put the remaster out. If it sells well, they'll put money into making Crash 4. That's exactly what they're going to do. If it doesn't sell well, then they won't make it. It's vote with your wallet time, basically. If you're a Crash fan, you want Crash Bandicoot, then you will have to buy the remaster, because if you don't, then you will not get a Crash 4. It's pretty much what they're doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and talking about the other side of this, like I think a lot of people are against remasters, and just saying that they're cheap cash-ins. They're like, but it's like you said, like maybe the publishers are looking to see whether or not they want to release another game in the series, so they do the remaster to kind of get a feel for it. That's fine. Like you don't have to buy the remaster if you don't believe in it. Just vote with your wallet. You don't have to go nuts about it.
Yeah. But yeah, with looking at the negative side, like, can you think of it like any remasters that you've seen in recent years where it is just, just a cash-in sort of thing, and nothing's really come of it? It's just repackaged stuff.
I can think of one that was really bad. Is the Wii, basically the Wii port, or
just a Wii, the whole thing. it's just another Zelda, another Mario. That's just the whole thing.
you remember Super Mario All-Stars for the Super Nintendo?
Right.
They basically repackaged that game for, I think, the Mario 25th anniversary, and it may or may not have come with like an art booklet, but that was it, and there was nothing else. It wasn't even a remaster. They just repackaged that thing and put a full price tag on it, and a lot of people complained about it. They said that this is bare bones. All they did is fit an SNES game into the Wii package, and they're asking people for the same amount of cash, which I do remember people complaining about that, but not necessarily a remaster. How about you, Shane?
How about you, Shane?
Didn't that kind of happen too? And I never played these, but the Silent Hill and Silent Hill 2 and 3, I think.
Oh, and those were
You
remasters.
stole my example.
Re-release?
That's exactly
Yep.
what I was going to say.
Yeah, and I mean, I was excited for that. I mean, Silent Hill 2 is up there, one of my favorite games. So
Same here.
I was ready to play it. And then I heard all these like just awful things about the port, and I was like, okay, well, what a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, like they
so-
got rid
Yeah,
of
it is
the
a shame.
fog. Like was one of the whole it's like one of the main things in Silent Hill is the fog.
Yeah.
And so you could like see more of the area, and then it just completely lost.
just killed it.
It killed the atmosphere of the game, and then
the whole aspect behind Silent Hill is the fog, and the whole reason why they put the fog in the first game is because the draw distance was so bad.
Right.
On that game, they had to put. Oh man, like what can we do? Okay, just put fog in the game. That'd be great. Like then, it'd look like, it looks like the fog rather than like we're actually just drawing. We're doing draw calls in front of the player's eyes.
The old necessity is the mother of invention type thing.
Exactly, and it totally worked. It totally worked. The fog became this prevalent thing, and then
like how
you take that out.
How tone deaf are they that they didn't realize like that was one of the coolest things about it? I don't even
know how they missed that. But the weird thing about that remaster was it didn't come with the first game. It only came with Silent Hill 2 and 3, maybe, I think.
Yeah, didn't they have problems finding like some assets for that game, for those games?
I don't even know.
I think
and then
maybe
they couldn't find the original audio file, so they had to re-record the voices, and it was just a really it was a terrible.
Yeah,
terrible
I think you're right.
port.
I think that, they ended up being out of sync. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that they had lost some assets or something. Which, how do you even do that?
I don't know. They scrambled a bunch of stuff together, but and I think that is a great. If you're looking at the bad part of that, if you want to look at a cheap cash-in, they tried to scrape together a remaster that was bad, and they probably knew it, and they decided to package it and send it out and expect people to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I suppose it's some games that give remasters a bad name, right? So,
but it's Konami, isn't it? So
yeah.
Amen. But yeah, speaking of like good remasters, like what games have you guys played recently which have just you probably would have totally missed if you didn't have the remaster? Like starting with you, Shane.
Wow. I don't know that I don't think I've ever actually picked up any remasters.
Yeah, well, hardcore gamers, I guess. So
yeah, I'm sitting here. I'm trying to think. I'm like, I don't actually think I've really picked up any remasters that were something that I had missed before. There's really just a lot that I would play if they would bring them out.
Sure.
So.
True. I mean, a lot of it is through like EA. Like, I wish EA would just cave in and just start releasing their games.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
Yeah. How about you, Evan? Do you know any?
Well, I didn't own a GameCube. Owned a Wii at the end of its life cycle because my brother-in-law just gave it to me. But at that time, it was like 2011. I was like, I'm not playing this thing.
Yeah.
But I got to play Wind Waker for the first time last year, and that is a
cool.
That is an amazing game. Like, when I think about a great Zelda game, a 3D Zelda game, that is probably the pinnacle. And this is having played Twilight Princess HD earlier this year. Man, Wind Waker leaps and bounds ahead of Twilight Princess, I'll tell you that much. How ironic, because when they first released the trailer for Wind Waker, people fucking they lost their shit on the internet, and then it ultimately ended up being a far superior game, at least in my opinion. But yeah, that's a great one, I think.
That is a good one.
I don't know, Vin, anything? What do you think?
Nothing for me personally. I mean, most of the remasters which I buy are games that I've previously played and enjoyed, and I'm happy to give that studio or whatever studio it is like my money again. It's like I bought The Last of Us remaster just because I was like, yeah, Naughty Dog deserve my money, sort of thing. I want them to, carry on making games like this. So this is my vote with my wallet, sort of thing.
Right.
But I mean, I hear stories all the time about people that have never. Sorry to keep bringing up this frigging game, but Eco and Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
There's so many people which
shame on me for not thinking about that. Yeah, the HD package for the PS3.
There's so many people that just have never even heard of them games before they played them on the PS3. And if that remaster didn't come out, I don't think even quarter of the industry would even care about The Last Guardian coming out. I think half of the people that are excited for The Last Guardian coming out this year are people that probably played the remaster for the first time. So.
All right.
That would be my great example, I guess.
That is
But yeah, I mean, even if you do like remasters, if you don't like remasters, I think they're a positive thing. I think it gives gamers more choice, even if people do complain about them from time to time being, corporate cash-ins or whatever. But they're certainly not going away, I don't think.
No,
and ultimately
they're worth it, I think. Yeah, no, I mean,
definitely.
Evan, you, I know you were saying earlier that you had just played the Ratchet and Clank Future series.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
to me, this is a perfect example because they remastered the original Ratchet trilogy for PS3.
Right. I do.
And
Yeah, I do remember
those
that.
games are very much worth it. With the possible exception of the first one, I don't think it necessarily holds up super well. But like the second and third games are really still really good. I think they still hold up. And that's, to me, that's a great example of something that maybe if someone had come in and not played those games yet, that would be a perfect opportunity to do it.
Oh, I would recommend, if no one has played the Ratchet games yet, I would highly recommend that. It's an easy package to pick up and play. Those games are really, really fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So even if you hate remasters, they are here to stay, and I'm happy about it. So
I am
it's all
too.
good.
I want more.
Cool. So we're coming up to the end of the podcast. Sorry, what? Go on.
I don't know.
All right, I'm mad. All right, cool. We're coming up to the end of the podcast now, and we're actually going to give our content call-outs. We'll start off with our guest, as always. So, Shane, what is your content call-out of the week?
So I actually wanted to call out a blog from another Sifted user. It
Cool.
is, I don't know if this is Caver, I don't, CAVR, put up this E3 2016 small game data analysis. And it was
All right, okay.
Yeah, it was based on a list, I guess, of games from Kotaku, that 125 games that were going to be at E3. And Caver put together like all these charts that lists, all the game platforms and like the genres and just how many of them are. It's a really nice look at what's coming out. What systems have how many games coming out and what the crossover is. Whether they are.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's pretty extensive. You should definitely check this out. This is insane.
I haven't seen
very
this, yeah.
comprehensive. It is good.
Yeah.
It's worth looking at. It's very interesting to see, how many games are exclusive to one platform or exclusive to one company or.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. And he got on here, games that maybe are coming out that might be exclusive to VR or are going to be playable on VR, but also on, just your normal console. So it's a really extensive, great look at what we got coming out as far as numbers. And I just think it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, he's got Venn diagrams and everything on here.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Jesus, yeah, he's got everything.
And
yeah, cool. Well played, Carver,
yeah,
maybe?
I'm not sure.
Caver?
It's also worth
CAVR.
noting.
Check him out. That's awesome.
It is. It's also worth noting here that the on the left side are colored diagrams, on the right side are colorblind friendly diagrams. So.
Oh man, this guy thought of everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well played. Cool. So yeah, big shout out to him. So Evan, what is your content call out of the week?
Mine's very quick. It is at the 1 hour and 30-minute mark. Thank you, FSB Elston, for posting the time on the latest Game Face, which is episode. What episode is this? 55.
55.
Matt and Shane got into a massive argument / discussion about whether or not PlayStation's
that's what it was.
E3 showing for the PS4 was key to the success of the PlayStation 4 as it is now. And that's probably the most heated discussion they've ever gotten into up on this point. It took many episodes.
There was tapping of hands from Matt. There was tapping of hands.
Yeah,
that's all I'll say.
But it is at the 1 hour and 30-minute mark of Game Face episode 55. I recommend watching it. It is... if you have popcorn at the house,
passion overload. That's what it is.
Put it in the microwave or put it on the stove, start popping, and sit down and enjoy. That's mine.
Yeah.
Vin, how about yours?
Very cool. My call out is actually to the cruise section of the podcast, to the website, sorry, to sifted.net. They've added cruise, which is sort of like you get your own personal forum if you get 5 people to sign up for your specific crew. So I've just set up a developers crew. So games developers and stuff have been coming in mine. We've all been just hanging out and talking about everything about development basically. But you can set up a crew about absolutely everything as long as it isn't anything illegal. So if you're setting up a drug empire or something, then do not use crew. It's not going to work. But yeah, it's a really, really cool little feature, and I think it's going to be huge once the website starts getting more and more influx of people.
Definitely.
And you can get very specific. So I'm sure Evan's got an NFL Packers one set up already.
I started that crew, yeah, the Sifted NFL or the SNFL.
Dude, I was joking. And are you serious? Like you've actually?
No, I was the first to hop on that bandwagon, and Shane's in there. Shane Satterfield, not Shane CuriousConjurer.
Not me.
Shane's in there, and we're going to be starting a Sifted Fantasy League for the new NFL season. A bunch of us are getting together.
Geez.
So if you're a NFL fan, get on the crew, and I think sometime in the next 2 months we're going to start a fantasy league. So yeah, get on it if you're interested.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Curious? Shane, are you in any crews yet? Or
I've joined several crews, and I have started the Indie Gamer crew. So if anybody is a fan of indie games like me, then check out the Indie Gamer crew. We
cool,
definitely, and also just
they had a similar system on Game Trailers, I believe. I think,
yes.
Like Shane, obviously,
Yeah.
Factions. That's what it was called. Brent set them up on Game Trailers as well because obviously he wrote that website as well. So it's a similar sort of thing if you were a part of Game Trailers and you remember that stuff. So yeah, definitely check them out. They are awesome.
Yeah, and a little extra shout out to FSB Alston, who, as usual, is.
God, I hate that guy.
Putting together, amazing list of content. He's actually got a forum post here with a list of all the crews, that exist and the crews that still need signatures. So, if you're looking for a crew, check out that list he's got set up. It's pretty good.
Yeah, if FSB Alston was a Viking, he'd be like FSB the Compiler.
Yeah.
The Compiler. I love it. You should just change his name to that.
The mightiest of Viking names. But he always does good work on the site.
Yes. Yeah.
He does. We always appreciate the forums. I know he did a post explaining like where everyone can be found everywhere else on the internet, sort of thing.
Oh, it's so helpful because actually for this podcast, I've wanted to look up people so I could send them messages. And I can't find them, so it's like, go to the social, whatever, the social hub and, Control F and then find them, and it's so useful, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, yeah, we appreciate the hard work that you've been doing on that, Alston. It's been really cool. And we had you on the podcast one time, so we'll definitely have you on at some point again. So, yep, awesome. Okay, so coming up to the end of the podcast now, just wanted to give some final thoughts and goodbyes. So, do you guys have anything else?
I don't have anything else other than the old Twitter plug.
Cool. So, yeah, we're going to sign off. Each of us are going to give our Twitter handles and any goodbye sign-offs we've got. So, Shane, do you want to kick us off? What is your Twitter handle and your goodbye?
Sure. I am CuriousConjurer on Sifted, and I am CuriousConjurer on Twitter, so keeps it easy.
Nice and easy.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you got any plugs or anything, man, that you want to give out?
Nope, other than thanks for having me on. Had tons of fun, so yeah, I'd definitely be up for doing it again, and I absolutely recommend anyone else who has been on the fence about getting on the podcast to get off the fence and put your name in the hat.
Cool.
Thanks for that.
Yep. How about you, Evan?
Nope, just you can find me at the Stand User on Twitter, Giant Bomb, and of course Sifted. How about yourself?
Cool. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at VinHillArts. You can find me in some of my finger paintings there. I've been doing a lot more 3D work recently, so 3D and pixel art, which you will find out pretty soon, I hope.
Yeah,
like if you're on Sifted.
That low poly renaissance, right?
Yeah, the low poly renaissance. I suppose it's been officially announced, but I'm doing I'm actually making all the achievements for Sifted.net, which Shane's been mentioning over the last couple of episodes of Game Face, so watch out for those when you do see them. Like there are quite a few. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, you lucky bastard. You know what the achievements are.
That's what I said
making
earlier.
them, so.
Yeah.
He's in the know. He already knows what he has to do to get them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to having several just like pop right away because I don't know.
There's going to be you're going to get a lot basically the second that when they go live and you sign in. There's just going to for a good half an hour, I'd say.
I'm looking forward to them.
Yeah, you'll get quite a few. But yeah, it's really exciting. But you can also find me on Sifted, of course, at Vin Hill. So yeah, if you do want to be on the podcast, as Shane so eloquently promoted for us, then all you have to do is message Evan on the site, which is at the stand user. Message him, let him know where you are in the world, what sort of microphone you've got, and we'll get you on the show as soon as we can. I'm not sure like how long the list is at the minute, so
it's about a month and a half, I believe. But
okay,
put your name on the list now, and then before you know it, it'll come around to you. So,
yeah, it comes up fast.
Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah. It really does.
But yeah, other than that, I just want to say a massive thank you to Shane for joining us on the podcast, man. It's been really cool to have you on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. But yeah, other than that, I'd like to say thank you very much from us, guys, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Sound like I was from the Goonies.
You are from the Goonies. You know that what was the horrible one called? The ugly one.
Sloth?
There you go.
So yeah, I'm Sloth basically is what we're trying to say.
Only in the face.
Yeah, only. I don't.
In VR with a whip coming soon.